I am sharing today's story, the Craigslist revelation, about the moments that forced me to choose between the life I planned and the love that saved me. It's about betrayal, instinct, and the courage to walk away from everything you thought you wanted. Grab some tissues. This one is for Jackie, my best buddy. The text came at 9:17 p.m. on a Friday. And the first thing my bridesmaid sad-faced Charlotte said was, "Don't panic, but I found something on Craigslist." My stomach dropped. Jackie. My husky mix. The dog my father gave me 3 weeks before he died, who still wore the purple leash with the orange balls my dad had picked out himself. The dog who slept at the foot of my bed through every nightmare after the funeral, who watched me ugly cry into his matted fur when the grief was too heavy to stand. The dog my fiancé Gary swore he'd taken to a grooming spa 2 days ago and somehow lost at a Walmart parking lot. Charlotte's voice was shaking. "Lola, the photo is blurry, but the leash. It's purple with orange balls." I hung up and drove 40 minutes through suburban streets with one question burning so hot in my chest I could barely breathe. How does the man who promised to love you forever do the one thing that would break you completely? But here's what I didn't know then. What nobody tells you when you're 7 days from your wedding and your world is unraveling. Sometimes the person you're terrified to lose is the very one destroying you. Sometimes the real predator isn't some stranger in a dark alley. It's the man who knows exactly where your scars are. And sometimes, by the time you see the truth, the thing you love most is already gone. I don't remember most of that drive. Just the streetlights blurring past my windshield. Just the way my phone kept lighting up with messages from Charlotte. Screenshots I couldn't look at because my hands were shaking too hard to hold the phone steady. Just the countdown running through my head on repeat. 7 days until I walked down the aisle. 7 days since Gary looked me in the eye and said, "Babe, I'm so sorry." He just jumped out of the truck. I turned around and he was gone. 7 days of searching parking lots and calling shelters and posting on Facebook groups while my wedding dress hung in the closet like a ghost. And now this. Jackie wasn't just a dog. I know everyone says that about their pets, but this was different. I got him 6 weeks after my father's funeral, this scrawny 6-month-old husky mix with one ear that flopped and eyes that looked older than mine. My dad had already paid the breeder before he got sick. The purple leash with the orange balls came in the mail 2 weeks after we buried him, and I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe when I opened the package. I'd spent every dollar I had left on training at Positive K9 Academy because I needed something to survive, for that wasn't just pain. Jackie learned to sense my panic attacks before I did. He'd press his whole body against my legs in the frozen food aisle at the grocery store when the fluorescent lights got too bright. We walked every trail in the state park behind my apartment. He knew the sound of my car 3 streets away. When Gary and I started dating 18 months ago, he used to joke that he was marrying both of us, that Jackie was part of the package deal. He wasn't joking. But over the past 6 months, things had shifted. Gary started complaining that Jackie smelled, that he shed too much, that he didn't match the aesthetic of the home we were planning. He'd wrinkle his nose when Jackie walked into the room. He'd make passive comments about how normal couples don't let dogs sleep in the bedroom. I'd laughed it off. I'd told myself he was just stressed about the wedding. I told myself a lot of things. The morning Gary took Jackie for his grooming appointment, I'd been at a dress fitting with Pam and Julie. He texted me a photo of Jackie in the truck with the caption, "Spa day for the old man." I'd smiled. I'd thought he was finally trying. When he came home without Jackie, his face looked broken. He said all the right things. He said he'd already called every shelter within 50 miles. He held me while I cried. He promised we'd find him. And then Charlotte sent me that screenshot. When I pulled into the gravel driveway of the address Charlotte had traced, a sagging trailer park on the edge of town, Everything looked wrong. There were no lights except one flickering bulb over a rusted mailbox. The air smelled like gasoline and something rotten. A car sat in the driveway with its back door hanging open, and through the grimy window, I could see movement. I didn't think. I ran. And there, in the back seat of that car, was Jackie. But he wasn't the dog I knew. His coat, once thick and silver, was matted and falling out in patches. His ribs showed through his skin like a xylophone. His face was covered in scabs, raw and oozing, and when he looked at me, his eyes were so empty I almost didn't recognize him. The purple leash with the orange balls was still around his neck. My knees hit the gravel. I reached for him, and he flinched. That's when I knew. Gary didn't lose Jackie at Walmart. Gary sold him. I want you to understand something before I go any further. This story isn't just about a dog. It's about the moment you realize the person sleeping next to you every night is a stranger. It's about the kind of betrayal that doesn't just break your heart, it rewrites your entire understanding of reality. If you've ever loved something so deeply that losing it felt like losing yourself, stay with me. And if this story moves you, if it makes you feel something real, please hit that like button. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because stories like this, they need to be heard. They need to matter. The morning after Gary came home without Jackie, I woke up at 4:37 a.m. to an empty bed. For a moment, just one merciful moment, I forgot. Then I heard the silence. No click of nails on hardwood. No warm weight pressing against my legs. No soft snoring from the corner where Jackie's bed used to be. Gary had already removed it. I found him in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any other Saturday. He turned when he heard me, and his face did this thing, this performance of concern that I'd seen 100 times, but never really noticed until that moment. "Baby," he said, setting down his mug. "Did you sleep at all?" I shook my head. My voice came out raw. "We need to keep looking." "I know." He crossed to me, pulled me into his chest. He smelled like expensive cologne and fabric softener, and for some reason that made me want to scream. "I've already called 3 more shelters. I posted on Nextdoor. I even drove back to that Walmart at dawn to look again." He was saying all the right things. That's what killers do, I'd learn later. They say exactly what you need to hear while they watch you drown. "I just don't understand how he could just vanish," I whispered into his shirt. Gary's hand rubbed circles on my back. "Dogs bolt sometimes, Lola. You know that. He probably got scared by a car backfiring or something. But he's microchipped. Someone will find him." The microchip. I held onto that like a lifeline. Jackie was microchipped. He had my number programmed into a tiny piece of glass under his skin. If anyone took him to a vet or a shelter, they'd scan him. They'd call me. Unless whoever had him didn't want to be found. By 10 a.m., Pam and Julie had shown up at my apartment with lattes and determination. "Okay," Pam announced, setting a takeout bag on my counter. "We're going to the bridal shop for your final fitting, and then we're getting lunch, and you're going to take a breath." I can't. I was scrolling through the local lost pet Facebook group for the 100th time. What if someone posts about him? What if? "Lola." Julie took my phone gently from my hands. "You've been staring at that screen for 2 days. Gary's handling the search. You have a wedding in 7 days. You need to take care of yourself too." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell them that trying on a wedding dress, while Jackie was out there somewhere, alone and scared, felt obscene. But I also knew they were trying to help. And maybe they were right. Maybe I was losing my mind staring at my phone, refreshing the same pages, hoping for a miracle that wasn't coming. So I went. The bridal shop smelled like lavender and tulle. The consultant, a woman named Marissa with a clipboard and a professional smile, led me to the dressing room. My dress hung there on a padded hanger, white and perfect and completely wrong. "Oh, Lola," Pam breathed when I stepped out. "You look like a princess." I looked like a ghost. I could see it in the three-way mirror, the dark circles under my eyes, the way my collarbones jutted out because I hadn't eaten anything but crackers in 48 hours. The dress fit perfectly, which somehow made everything worse. "Can you smile?" Marissa asked gently. "Just so we can see how the bodice moves?" I tried. My face wouldn't cooperate. Julie squeezed my hand. "He's going to turn up, Lola." "I know he is." But she didn't know. None of them knew. And standing there in that dress, surrounded by mirrors and champagne flutes and the fantasy of a perfect wedding day, all I could think about was Jackie's purple leash. The way my dad had laughed when he showed it to me in the pet store. "The orange balls are for visibility," he'd said. "So you can always find him, even in the dark." I excused myself to the bathroom and locked the door. My phone was in my purse. I opened Craigslist without even thinking about it. I'd been checking the lost and found pets section obsessively since Gary came home without Jackie. I'd posted my own ad with Jackie's photo and my number. I'd scanned every listing, every grainy photo of a dog someone had found wandering near a highway or huddled behind a dumpster. This time, I clicked on Pets by accident. My thumb slipped. And that's when I saw it. The listing was titled "Free to Good Home, Old Dog." The photo was blurry, deliberately so. You could make out the shape of a dog, some kind of husky mix, sitting in what looked like the back seat of a car. The image quality was terrible, pixelated and washed out. But I could see the leash. Purple, with orange balls dangling from the clip. My hands went numb. The phone almost slipped through my fingers. I grabbed the edge of the sink to steady myself, but the room was tilting. The listing had been posted yesterday. Yesterday. The same day Gary had spent driving around looking for Jackie. The description was short. Older male dog, needs new home ASAP. Health issues. Free to anyone who can pick up today. Serious inquiries only. There was no name. No contact information except a throwaway email address. And at the bottom, in smaller text, cash only. No questions. I don't remember walking back to the dressing room. I don't remember what I said to Pam and Julie, but I must have said something because suddenly we were in Julie's car and she was driving too fast and asking me if I was okay. "I need to call Charlotte," I managed. "Right now." "I need Charlotte." Charlotte answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" I sent her the screenshot. "Can you find out who posted this?" There was a pause. Then Charlotte's voice, sharp and focused. "Where are you right now?" "In Julie's car." "Charlotte, that's Jackie's leash." "I know it is." "Don't do anything." Her keyboard was already clicking in the background. "Give me 30 minutes. I'll call you back." She called back in 20. "The email's a burner," Charlotte said. But I traced the IP address to a location about 40 minutes outside of town. Rural area, kind of a dead zone. The listing's been up for less than 24 hours, and here's the thing, Lola, her voice dropped. I did some digging. There have been other listings like this. Same email format, same vague descriptions. And they're all linked back to a guy named Justin Creel. The name meant nothing to me. Who is he? He's got a record. Animal neglect, illegal breeding, unlicensed sales. Apparently, he runs some kind of under-the-table operation taking dogs people don't want anymore and reselling them. Sometimes to labs. Sometimes to worse places. Charlotte's voice cracked. "Lola, if this is Jackie, you need to go get him right now. These listings don't stay up long." My stomach turned to ice. "Send me the address." "Already done." "But Lola, don't go alone. And if you're right about this, if someone deliberately gave Jackie to this guy." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. If someone gave Jackie to Justin Creel, it wasn't an accident. It was a choice. I want to pause here and tell you something. If you've ever felt your reality crack open, if you've ever had that moment where everything you thought was true suddenly isn't, drop a comment. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Because what I'm about to tell you next, it's the part where I stopped being the woman planning a wedding and became someone else entirely. The address Charlotte sent me led to a place that didn't look like it belonged in the same world as bridal shops and champagne toasts. The road turned from asphalt to gravel to dirt, winding through clusters of trailers and abandoned cars and yards full of rusted machinery. My GPS kept recalculating, like even the satellites didn't want to admit this place existed. I'd told Julie to drop me off at my apartment. I'd lied and said I needed to rest. Then I'd gotten in my car and driven. The house, if you could call it that, was a sagging single-wide trailer with newspaper taped over the windows. There were 3 cars in the driveway, all in various states of decay. One of them, a faded blue sedan, had its back door hanging open. I parked on the road. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I texted Charlotte, "I'm here." She replied immediately, "Be careful. I'm tracking your location." I got out of the car. The air smelled wrong. Like gasoline and rot and something chemical I couldn't place. There were no lights on in the trailer. No sounds except the distant bark of a dog that made every hair on my body stand up. I walked toward the blue sedan. That's when I saw him. I'm going to ask you to stay with me here, because this is the part that still makes me wake up at night. This is the part one see every time I close my eyes. Jackie was in the back seat of that car. But he wasn't the dog I'd said goodbye to 2 days ago. His coat, that beautiful silver and white fur that used to be so thick I'd lose my fingers in it, was matted and patchy. Bald spots covered his sides. His ribs were visible through his skin, every bone outlined like a diagram in a veterinary textbook. His face, God, his face, was covered in scabs and raw, oozing sores that looked like cigarette burns. The purple leash with the orange balls was still around his neck, pulled so tight it had rubbed the fur away completely. I dropped to my knees in the gravel. I didn't care about the rocks cutting through my jeans. I reached for the car door. Jackie looked at me. And for one heart-stopping moment, he didn't recognize me. His eyes were dull and glassy. There was no tail wag. No excited whine. He just stared at me like I was another threat, another human who would hurt him, and when I whispered his name, he flinched. If you've ever loved something so much that seeing it in pain physically hurt you, if you've ever felt your heart break in real time, hit that subscribe button. Because I need to know these stories matter. I need to know I'm not screaming into the void. "Jackie," I said again, my voice breaking. "Baby, it's me. It's Lola." I moved slowly. I'd done this before, years ago, when I'd first brought him home, and he'd been so scared of everything. I let him smell my hand. I waited. And then something shifted in his eyes. Some deep, ancient recognition. His tail moved. Just once. Just barely. He remembered. I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I reached into the car and wrapped my arms around him as gently as I could, feeling every bone, every scar, every place where someone had hurt him. He smelled like infection and fear and something else I couldn't name. "I'm so sorry," I whispered into his ruined fur. "I'm so sorry." A voice behind me said, "You his owner?" I spun around. A man stood in the doorway of the trailer, mid-40s, stained tank top, holding a cigarette. Justin Creel, I assumed. Yes. My voice came out harder than I expected. "He's mine." Justin looked at Jackie, then at me, then shrugged. "Then take him." I was gonna drop him at the pound tomorrow anyway. Dog's more trouble than he's worth. More trouble than he's worth. I stared at this man, This stranger who had kept my dog in a car for 2 days, who had let him starve and suffer, and I wanted to ask him how. How does someone do this to a living thing? How does someone look at pain and feel nothing? But I didn't ask. Because I already knew the answer. Some people don't see animals as alive. They see them as objects. As transactions. As things to be used and discarded when they're no longer useful. Just like Gary had. I lifted Jackie out of the car as carefully as I could. He weighed almost nothing. I could feel his heart beating against my chest, fast and irregular. I carried him to my car, laid him across the back seat on a blanket I kept in the trunk, and drove. I didn't go home. I went straight to the emergency vet. Dr. Lewis met me at the entrance. She was the vet who'd been seeing Jackie since he was a puppy, who'd held my hand when we thought he might have cancer 2 years ago, but it turned out to be benign. She took one look at him, and her face went white. What happened? I don't know, I said. I just found him. That was a lie. I knew exactly what happened. I just couldn't say it out loud yet. Because saying it out loud would mean accepting a truth I wasn't ready to face. Dr. Lewis and her team took Jackie back immediately. I sat in the waiting room under fluorescent lights, still wearing the jeans I'd put on that morning for the dress fitting, watching a clock tick forward and thinking about purple leashes and blurry photographs and the man I was supposed to marry in 7 days. My phone buzzed. Gary, where are you? Julie said you weren't feeling well. I stared at the message. I thought about all the times over the past 2 days he'd held me while I cried. All the times he'd promised we'd find Jackie. All the times he'd looked me in the eye and lied. I didn't reply. Dr. Lewis came out an hour later. Her eyes were red. Lola, can we talk? We sat in a consultation room that smelled like antiseptic and fear. Dr. Lewis pulled up X-rays on a computer screen. Jackie's severely dehydrated and malnourished. He's lost almost 30% of his body weight. The wounds on his face and body, she paused. They're consistent with bait dog injuries. The room spun. Bait dog. Dogs used in fight training. They're tied up so they can't defend themselves, and other dogs are set on them to build aggression. Jackie has bite marks, burns, and signs of prolonged stress. Whoever had him, Dr. Lewis's voice hardened. This wasn't neglect, Lola. This was intentional. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard my father's voice from years ago. The orange balls are for visibility. So you can always find him, even in the dark. Can you save him? I whispered. Dr. Lewis reached across the table and took my hand. We're going to try. If this story is breaking your heart the way it broke mine, share it. Please. Because somewhere out there, someone else is ignoring red flags. Someone else is trusting the wrong person. And maybe, just maybe, this story will save them before it's too late. I stayed at the emergency vet clinic until 3 in the morning. They'd moved Jackie to the ICU, hooked him up to 4 fluids and antibiotics, cleaned and bandaged his wounds. Through the window of the recovery room, I could see him lying on a heated pad, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Every few minutes, a technician would check his vitals and make notes on a clipboard. Dr. Lewis brought me coffee I couldn't drink. You should go home, Lola. Get some rest. We'll call you if anything changes. But I couldn't leave. Every time I tried to stand up, my legs wouldn't work. Because leaving meant going back to my apartment, where Gary was probably waiting with that concerned expression and those careful lies, and I didn't know if I could look at him without screaming. Dr. Lewis sat down next to me. She'd been my vet for 6 years. She'd seen me through Jackie's puppy vaccinations, his dietary issues, that cancer scare. She knew things about my life I'd never told anyone else. Like how I'd sometimes come in just to sit in the waiting room when my grief got too heavy, because the sound of dogs barking made me feel less alone. Lola, she said quietly. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did your fiancé have access to Jackie? My throat closed. He said Jackie jumped out of his truck at Walmart. Dr. Lewis's jaw tightened. These injuries didn't happen in 2 days. Based on the healing patterns and the extent of the malnutrition, Jackie's been in this condition for at least a week. Maybe longer. A week. But Gary had taken him for grooming 2 days ago. Which meant someone's been keeping him somewhere, Dr. Lewis continued. Someone's been systematically harming him. And I'm required by law to report suspected animal abuse to the authorities. She paused. But before I do that, I want to make sure you're safe. Because if someone could do this to a dog, they're capable of hurting people too. I thought about all the little things I'd ignored. The way Gary had started making comments about Jackie being too needy. The way he'd suggested more than once that maybe Jackie would be happier on a farm somewhere. The way his eyes would go cold when Jackie would jump on the couch between us. I'd told myself he was just adjusting. That he wasn't a dog person. That he'd learned to love Jackie the way I did. But you can't teach someone to have a soul. I need to go home, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. I need to check something. Dr. Lewis studied my face. If you need somewhere to stay, I'll be okay. Another lie. I was building a tower of them, one on top of the other, and eventually the whole thing would collapse. She walked me to my car. The parking lot was empty except for a few vehicles belonging to the overnight staff. The sky was starting to lighten at the edges, that deep blue-black that comes right before dawn. Lola, Dr. Lewis said as I opened my car door. Whatever you find out, whatever you decide to do, you deserve better than this. You and Jackie both. I drove home through streets that were just starting to wake up. Delivery trucks. Early shift workers. A woman jogging with her dog, and I had to pull over because watching them made me cry so hard I couldn't see. If you've ever had to choose between the life you planned and the truth that's destroying you, leave a comment. Tell me how you found the strength. Because I'm about to walk into my apartment and confront a monster, and I need to know I'm not alone. Gary was asleep in our bed when I got home. He looked peaceful. Innocent. His phone was charging on his nightstand, and his laptop was closed on the dresser where he'd left it the night before. I stood in the doorway watching him breathe, and I felt something crack open inside my chest. This was the man who'd proposed to me on a beach at sunset. Who'd cried when I said yes. Who'd held me through panic attacks and family dinners and the ordinary, terrible beauty of learning to love someone. Except I'd never actually known him at all. I picked up his laptop and carried it to the kitchen. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I knew his password. We'd shared everything, or at least I'd thought we had. The screen lit up, showing his desktop. Email icon in the corner. I clicked it. His inbox was obsessively organized. Folders for work, for wedding planning, for family correspondence. I scrolled through, not even sure what I was looking for. Some kind of proof. Some kind of explanation. Then I saw the trash folder. Emails he deleted, but hadn't permanently erased. And there, buried among spam and old newsletters, was a message from an address I didn't recognize, jcreel1979@email.com. I opened it. The email was dated 8 days ago. The subject line was blank. The message read, "Got the deposit. Bring the dog Thursday morning early. Same spot as last time. Don't worry about the condition. I can work with anything. Thanks for the business. Jay." Gary had replied, "Thursday works. Just need him gone before the weekend. She can't know." I read it 3 times. 4. 5. The words didn't change. They stayed exactly the same, black text on a white screen, destroying everything I thought was real. She can't know. My fiancé hadn't lost Jackie at Walmart. He'd sold him. He'd driven my childhood dog, the last living connection to my father, to a man who tortured animals for money. And he'd done it deliberately, methodically, with full knowledge of what would happen. I want you to understand what that moment felt like. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something colder. It was the feeling of every memory rewriting itself in real time. Every kiss, every I love you, every promise about our future together, all of it rotting from the inside out. I took a screenshot. Then I forwarded the email to my own account. Then I printed it. The printer noise woke Gary up. I heard him moving in the bedroom, calling my name. Lola? You home? I stood in the kitchen holding the printed email, and when he walked in wearing boxer shorts and a t-shirt, looking soft and sleepy and concerned, I felt absolutely nothing. Hey, he said, crossing to me. I was worried. Where were you all night? The emergency vet. My voice was flat. With Jackie. His face did something complicated. You found him. I held up the paper. You sold him. The concern melted off his face like wax. For just a second, I saw something underneath, something calculating and cold and completely devoid of anything human. Then the mask came back, but it was too late. I'd already seen. Lola, I can explain. Don't. I was surprised by how steady my voice was. The rehearsal dinner is tonight. Your parents are flying in. All of our friends are expecting us to show up and smile and pretend everything's perfect. I folded the paper in half. So that's what we're going to do. Gary stared at me. What are you talking about? I'm talking about 8:30 tonight at Rosso's restaurant. I'm talking about showing up and playing our parts one last time. I met his eyes. And then I'm talking about ending this. You're not thinking clearly. I've never thought more clearly in my entire life. I walked past him toward the bedroom. Wear the navy suit. The one your mother likes. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with JACKY'S purple leash in my hands, running my thumb over the orange balls, and I planned. I called the restaurant and asked if they had a microphone for toasts. I called Charlotte and asked her to bring her laptop. I called Dr. Lewis and asked for copies of JACKY'S medical records and intake photos. And then I called my bridesmaids. We need to talk, I told Pam. All of us. Before tonight. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Pam and Julie arrived together, looking concerned but trying to hide it. Charlotte showed up with her laptop bag and a look on her face that said she already knew this was going to be bad. I laid it all out. The Craigslist ad. The email. JACKY'S condition. The words came out mechanical and precise, because if I let myself feel them, I'd shatter. Julie's face went white. Oh my God, Lola. I want you all there tonight, I said. I need witnesses. Because Gary's going to try to spin this. He's going to try to make me look crazy or vindictive or like I'm overreacting. And I need people who know the truth. Pam reached across the table and grabbed my hand. What are you going to do? I'm going to stand up in front of everyone we know, I said, and I'm going to tell them exactly who he is. Charlotte's eyes were bright with tears. Are you sure? Lola, this is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. I pulled my hand back. I'm just making sure everyone can see it. If you've ever had to expose someone you loved, if you've ever had to choose truth over comfort, hit that like button. Because what I'm about to tell you next took every ounce of courage I had, and I need to know it mattered. Rosso's restaurant was beautiful. Gary's parents had paid for the rehearsal dinner, and they'd gone all out, white tablecloths, candles, a private room with windows overlooking the city. There were 40 people there. Family, friends, colleagues, people who'd driven hours to celebrate our upcoming wedding. Gary was already there when I arrived, talking to his father near the bar. He'd worn the navy suit. He looked perfect. Handsome and confident, and exactly like the kind of man any woman would be lucky to marry. He saw me and his smile faltered. Just for a second. I'd worn the dress I was supposed to wear for the wedding brunch, pale pink, feminine, the kind of thing that made me look soft and non-threatening. I'd done my makeup. I'd curled my hair. I looked exactly like the bride everyone expected to see. Lola. Gary's mother, Patricia, swept over and pulled me into a hug. "Oh honey, you look beautiful. Gary told us about your dog." "I'm so sorry." "Have you found him yet?" "I did," I said. "I'll tell everyone about it during the toasts." Dinner was excruciating. I sat next to Gary at the head table and ate food I couldn't taste. He kept trying to touch my hand under the table, and I kept moving it away. His father gave a speech about love and commitment. His mother cried happy tears. And then it was time for toasts. Gary's best man went first, telling embarrassing stories about their college days. Everyone laughed. Then Pam stood up and gave a sweet, carefully rehearsed speech about friendship and happiness and new beginnings that we'd practiced 2 weeks ago. Then I stood up. The room went quiet. Gary's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Lola, what are you doing?" I pulled away, giving a toast. I walked to the front of the room where the microphone was set up. Charlotte was already there with her laptop, projecting onto the screen we'd been using for the slideshow of our relationship photos. "Thank you all for being here," I started. My voice was steady. "This past week has been difficult. Many of you know that my dog, Jackie, went missing. What you don't know is that I found him 2 days ago." I nodded to Charlotte. She clicked the mouse. Jackie's intake photo from the emergency vet filled the screen. 40 people gasped. The image showed everything. The protruding ribs, the raw wounds, the purple leash pulled tight around his scarred neck. "This is what he looked like when I found him," I continued. "Emaciated. Covered in injuries consistent with being used as a bait dog in fight training. He'd been deliberately starved and tortured." Gary was standing now. "Lola, stop." "The person who did this to him," I said, my voice getting stronger, "paid someone named Justin Creel to take him. They sold my childhood dog, the last gift from my late father, for cash." Next slide. The Craigslist ad with the blurred photo and the purple leash visible. This is the ad. Next slide. The email from Justin with Gary's reply highlighted. And this is the proof. The room exploded. Gary's mother made a sound like she'd been punched. His father was staring at the screen with his mouth open. Friends were looking at Gary, then at me, then at each other, trying to understand what they were seeing. Gary's face had gone bright red. "That's taken out of context." "There is no context," I said into the microphone, "that makes this okay." He started toward me. Pam and Julie stood up, blocking his path. Charlotte closed her laptop and took my hand. "The wedding is canceled," I said. "I'm sorry you all traveled here for nothing. I'm sorry I didn't see this sooner. And I'm sorry to everyone who trusted him." I looked directly at Gary. "But I'm not sorry for telling the truth." I walked out of that restaurant with my head up and my friends flanking me like bodyguards, and behind us I could hear Gary screaming, "Share this story if you've ever walked away from something everyone said you should keep. Because sometimes leaving is the only way to survive." The parking lot was dark and cool. I could still hear raised voices from inside the restaurant. Gary arguing with his father, guests demanding explanations, the kind of chaos that happens when a perfect facade shatters in public. Charlotte unlocked her car. "Where do you want to go?" "The vet clinic." I was already texting Dr. Lewis. "I need to see Jackie." "Lola," Julie's voice was gentle. "Are you okay?" I thought about that question. Was I okay? My wedding was canceled. My relationship was destroyed. In 48 hours, everyone I knew would be talking about this night. There would be questions and phone calls and probably a legal battle over the apartment and the deposits and the merged bank accounts. But Jackie was alive. And I was free. "I will be," I said. We drove to the emergency vet with the windows down and the radio off. Nobody spoke. Charlotte parked under the orange glow of the parking lot lights, and I went inside alone. Dr. Lewis was waiting. "I heard," she said. Julie called ahead. "Can I see him?" She led me back to the ICU. Jackie was awake, curled up on his heated pad. He looked up when I came in, and this time, his tail wagged. I sat down on the floor next to him and cried. Not quiet, dignified tears. The ugly kind that come from somewhere deep in your chest, the kind that hurt coming out. And Jackie, even though he could barely move, lifted his head and pressed his nose against my hand. "You're going to be okay," I whispered. "We both are." Dr. Lewis crouched down next to us. "He's stable. We're going to keep him here for at least another week, but he's going to make it, Lola. He's a fighter." "He learned that from my dad," I said. "My dad never gave up on anything." "Sounds like you didn't either." 3 days later, Gary sent me a text. "Just one, you destroyed my life." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I blocked his number and deleted every photo of us from my phone. He destroyed his own life. I just made sure everyone could see it. The next months were hard. There were legal bills and therapy appointments and nights when I couldn't sleep because my brain kept replaying every moment I should have seen the truth but didn't. I moved out of our apartment and into a small house with a fenced yard. I quit my job, too many people asking questions I didn't want to answer, and started freelancing. And slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening, Jackie healed. His fur grew back, thick and silver and beautiful. The scabs faded to scars, then to pink skin, then to nothing. He gained weight. He learned to trust again. Dr. Lewis said it was the most remarkable recovery she'd ever seen. "Dogs are resilient," she told me during one of our follow-up appointments. "They don't hold grudges the way humans do. They just move forward." I wanted to learn how to do that. 1 year and 3 days after I canceled my wedding, I took Jackie to Riverside Park. It was early spring, the kind of morning where the air smells like rain and new grass and possibility. The sun was just coming up, painting everything gold. I unclipped Jackie's leash, a new one, bright blue, because I couldn't look at purple anymore, and watched him run. He was 11 years old, getting gray around the muzzle, moving a little slower than he used to. But he was running. He was free. A woman jogging past slowed down. "Beautiful dog," she said. "Thank you," I replied. "He's a survivor." She smiled and jogged on, and I sat down on a bench and watched Jackie explore every tree and bush like he was discovering the world for the first time. Maybe he was. Maybe we both were. My phone buzzed. A text from Charlotte. "Coffee later? Want to hear about your week?" I replied, "Definitely." I wasn't a bride. I didn't have a wedding album or a marriage certificate or any of the things I'd thought I wanted a year ago. I didn't have the perfect house or the perfect future or the perfect partner who'd promise to protect me. But I had myself. And I had Jackie. And I had learned the hardest, most important lesson of my life, that the person you need to protect yourself from is sometimes the person you love most. That love without honesty is just a pretty cage. That trust given to the wrong person is worse than being alone. And that walking away from something that's destroying you isn't giving up. It's the bravest thing you can do. Jackie trotted back to me and sat down, leaning his full weight against my legs the way he used to when my panic attacks got bad. But I wasn't panicking. I was just sitting in the morning sun with my dog, watching joggers pass and birds circle and the world keep turning the way it always does. "Ready to go home?" I asked him. He wagged his tail. We walked back to my car together, and for the first time in a year, I felt something I'd almost forgotten existed. Peace. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something real, please share it. Because somewhere out there, Someone is ignoring red flags. Someone is making excuses for behavior that's breaking them. Someone is choosing a person over themselves. And maybe, just maybe, this story will help them choose differently. Maybe it will save a life. Maybe it will save a dog. Maybe it will save them both. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Tell me your story, if you're brave enough to share it. Tell me how you survived. Because we all need to know we're not alone in this. We all need to know that walking away is possible. That healing is possible. That you can lose everything you thought you wanted and still find something better on the other side. Thank you for listening to Jackie's story. Thank you for listening to mine. And if you're in the place I was a year ago, scared and confused and wondering if you're crazy for questioning the person who says they love you, please hear this. You're not crazy. Your instincts are trying to save you. And the life on the other side of that fear is worth fighting for. I promise.